Michael Padula, Human Performance Authority, Science Not Ideology, Evidence-Based Nutrition. Today's topic, thyroid. This is a book, Rethinking Hypothyroidism, Why Treatment Must Change and What Patients Can Do by Dr. Bianco. Dr. Bianco is the head of the American Thyroid Association for 25 years. He retired about 3 years ago. At the end of this book, he says we've been treating thyroid wrong for 50 years, admitting it was wrong under the 25 years he was in charge of the Thyroid Association. And at the end, he also says, despite this new information, the doctors are refusing to change how they treat thyroid. So let's get into it. What does that mean? So in 1850, goiter was discovered, a lump on the thyroid. They figured out it was coming from the thyroid. So in 1891, they started taking the juice from sheep thyroid. They would take a juice and juice, squeeze it and juice it, and inject it into the thyroid. And that worked. But syringes were not disposable then, so the needle over time became blunt. Could you imagine getting a blunt needle into your thyroid? Ouch. So they tried transplants in 1895, and it worked, except the body rejected the organ and the person died. So that was not a good option. So they went back to the juice of the sheep thyroid, and they freeze-dried it. And they switched over in time to pig, which became NP or armor thyroid. And they freeze-dried it, and that worked. They said they would dose into like little pieces to go keep increasing your dose until you feel better. Could you imagine dosing something today by doctors saying, hey, take this until you feel better and then stop? Well, that's what they did, and it worked. And they did that for 70 years, okay? So then in the 1960s, the company started making levothyroxine, which is T4. So T3 comes in the T3, T4 form. 90% in the human body is T4, and it converts over to T3. So 1/3 of T4 goes to T3, 1/3 goes to reverse T3, and 1/3 goes to other pathways. Not important. Okay. So there were no trials and there was no testing for levothyroxine. But the pharmaceutical companies and the reps said, hey, this is modern. This is T4. It converts to T3. Don't worry about it. Stop using the old stuff. This is new. This is modern. So they switched people over, and 3/4 of the women felt worse. Yeah. And the doctor said, pay no attention to how you feel. Remember before they said, let's see how you feel and then stop? Now it's pay no attention to how you feel. Your numbers are good. So what numbers are they looking at? They're looking at TSH. So on a blood lab, you'll see TSH. The norm should be like 1 on a lab to 4.5. Now some labs are going from 1 to 5.3. But here's the problem. In the research, going back into the 80s and 90s, the research actually showed above 2.5, a person was hypothyroid. So I don't know where modern medicine came up with this 4.5 and 5.3, though this is the average. So they're using averages, not what's working and not what's optimal, not what feels good. They're using the average of society. So the book goes into all of the corruption by this company because they wanted to sell. They want to sell the company. So they said, all right, we're going to do a trial. So they did a trial, they set it up, and the doctor that ran the trial was a famous woman, a medical doctor, scientist. And they said in the contract before they started, if we find anything wrong, we're not going to release the data. Well, she comes up to do the trial, and she finds 3/4 of the people did better on the NP and armor thyroid. So the company, of course, goes, no, we found a problem. And they made something up, and they never released the data. They sold the company. And then he goes into, in the book, how more and more companies were making more and more drugs. And he names names, he names companies, he names how, he names all of the details of the corruption in the industry, which is why they've been treating thyroid wrong for 50 years, because of the misinformation and the corruption. Okay. Now, however, my mentors, and despite this new information, the doctors are refusing to change how they treat thyroid. They're sticking to their old ways. Now, that being said, my two mentors in the 90s taught me how to treat thyroid properly. And they're two different doctors, two different parts of the country. They didn't know each other, but yet we're using the same information. They taught me the exact same thing. And I'm like, how is this possible? How do they both know the same thing? Because it was in the research. It was in the research. So a TSH should be between 1 and 2.5. If it's over 2.5, you're hypothyroid. And I cannot tell you how many women I've talked to over the years, past 30 plus years, to say, I don't feel well, they can't find anything wrong. And I'm like, what's your TSH? You're like, 4. I'm like, well, you're hypothyroid, or 3.5. And like a lot of people will think, and this makes sense, but this is what I try to tell people. Don't try to use logic and common sense when it comes to health and wellness. It doesn't work that way. So people say, well, it says 1 to 4.5. I'm 4.3. That's friggin' awesome. Look at me, I'm high. Okay, when this number is high, it means your thyroid's working harder to make thyroid hormone. So you want it down at the 1 to 1.5, 2, 2.5. This is like you've got your gas pedal all the way down and you're barely moving. It's not good. You want it under 2.5. Okay, so Tim comes to me last year, 35-year-old business owner, married, 2 children, 2 young children, just had a baby 6 weeks prior when I met him last year. His TSH was 8.9. He was on levothyroxine, and they kept on increasing his dose. His dose kept on getting higher, and his TSH kept on getting higher. And I said, he was actually there to see me because of anxiety. And this came across about this TSH. So, all right, let's work. Within 2 weeks, his anxiety was gone. And within a month, his TSH started coming down. Last spring, his TSH was 2.4, which is in the normal. I'm not going to get into T4 and T3 levels, but his T4 and T3 levels were in normal, perfect ranges under my functional medicine numbers, not what they use on the labs, my numbers. So he kept on decreasing his dose. I cannot give medical advice. I did not tell him to decrease his dose. I just gave him information. Okay, so causes for thyroid issues are autoimmune issues, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, which is rampant in today's society, nutritional deficiencies, oxidative stress, inflammation, rampant, mold, big issue, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 1/3 of the country has that. Gut issues will cause thyroid issues. So please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. You get a $180 cell blueprint. The cell blueprint is a questionnaire that will show me or you what issues are you having. Thyroid is on there. Women's hormones is on there. Gut issues are on there. Oxidative stress, inflammation's on there. Everything here and a lot more are on there. It'll tell you which categories are your biggest issues to no issues. All right? So click onto my website and there'll be a box. You put your email in and you'll get the cell blueprint emailed to you. Any questions? Please write the comments down below or email me, Michael at HPA.Coach. Michael at HPA.Coach is my email. Have a great day.